Hello, and welcome to Real Person Reviews. I'm Sam, and I'm a real person, and we're not going to even have me on camera this time. I'm just going to talk over the footage, because this game looks cool anyway, right? Today we're talking about Phantasy Star 4, the end of the Millennium. And this is for the Sega Genesis. I actually played it on the Sega Genesis Mini, if that really makes a difference to you. And also, this is the first Phantasy Star game, not that I've played, but the first one I've actually beat. As far as I'm aware, while it does have some connections to the other three Phantasy Star games, you're mostly going to be missing out on things like, certain like references in the lore and stuff, but you won't actually miss out on any, major things. You can still play this as its own standalone game. Of course, as always, there is going to be a written review. You can check that out. I'll have that linked in the description. But I think that's pretty much all I need to preface for this, I guess. So let's start with the setting here. I guess I should maybe mention it is an RPG. If you're curious, that is the genre. It is a more of a standard party-based, turn-based combat RPG. And the setting is sort of this mix between like sword and sorcery kind of stuff mixed with sci-fi technology kind of stuff. It's kind of a unique setting. It's pretty cool. As far as some of the backstory and whatever goes, is that you're in this Algo system, this solar system where there were 3 planets, but one of them got destroyed, so now there's only 2, and then like artificial satellites and other stuff around here. And it's sort of like basically kind of past its prime. It's the place is kind of it used to be pretty, technologically advanced and everything, and eventually it's just we're kind of in the stage of decline here where things are kind of getting worse, where planetary like systems that are supposed to like control, like these computers controlling the weather and the earth and other stuff, whatever, like the ecosystem or whatever, that kind of stuff, the ecological stuff, that kind of starts going haywire and everything. A lot of people are finding it harder and harder to just live normal lives now, and they're calling upon these hunters to help them out. There's this guild of hunters that essentially just take these odd jobs for money. It's also, I guess, worth noting too that we're in a world filled with humans and monsters and androids and just a bunch of kind of things in between that are kind of mixing and matching of them as well. So we're kind of in this place, kind of really blends these ideas together. And really, we meet our main characters here. Our main protagonist is Chaz Ashley. So Chaz is kind of your main guy you're going to have throughout the game that you're following. And you start off seeing him being a young hunter, being trained by Alice Brangwyn. Hopefully I said that right. Basically, she's a very well-respected hunter, and she usually gets really good jobs, whatever, from these things, whatever, and does well. So people know her. She's kind of semi-famous or whatever. And she's training this young man, whatever, somewhere in there. They're out, trying to solve problems for these people that are, posting these rewards for doing so. They're going out on these missions, on these quests, and you're kind of going along and learning. And basically, you start finding out, essentially through your quests, you're kind of led to this kind of main thing where it's like, okay, well, there's a lot of these things going on recently where a lot of monsters are coming up and attacking people, it seems like. Also, there's this lead you get here where you're hearing people talk about someone called Zio, this mysterious guy that's going around, and he's gathering these followers, and he's just creating a lot of chaos and havoc for everyone. So you start to wonder, why is he doing that? Who is he? Who is this character? And that's kind of the main thrust for the story, without really getting into spoilers on like different, plot and events and other things. But that's kind of what starts getting you out there and be like, okay, so maybe there's something behind this. Maybe we should, check this guy out. That's kind of the story. Gameplay is pretty basic. A lot of it's very basic, like RPG fare for the time, you'd probably expect turn-based combat. You can attack, and you can use items, and like attacking, items, defending, whatever. Like you have your combat, you have your exploring and stuff. You can equip things to kind of change your stats or give yourself different weapons to change your attacks a bit. And it's managing stats, getting experience, leveling up, getting stronger, that kind of thing. Going to different towns to buy stuff and get missions and do things, whatever. It's random encounters. All it's kind of typical RPG fare. It doesn't really need a whole lot of explaining, I guess. But I think what's worth noting are things that it does a little differently. It does a few things that aren't real typical for these, that are kind of unique. One of those things is that with the combat system that you have, well, it's a little weird. Basically, they kind of have magic, but it's not called magic. It's called tech, which is short for techniques. Essentially, they work like spells. They run off of tech points. You have a pool of points for your character to use these techniques. But and again, they're affected by your mentality stat. They're kind of like magic and everything but name. So it almost seems like, they don't really acknowledge magic that much in this game. That basically is that. So, you level up, you can get more spells or, whatever, more tech. You can get more powerful versions of old techniques or getting new techniques and that kind of thing. And expand your pool of tech points to do more things. But then you also have skills. And skills are similar, but they do kind of different things a little bit. And instead of being like a pool of points to use them, they're just limited use things. So you have only so many of each skill. And as you level up, you'll have more uses of them and also get new skills along the way. But you can only replenish things like your tech points and your skill uses by going to the inns and resting there, pretty much. So that's a bit different. You've also got these different characters. So you have human characters, but there are also some android characters, and they function a little differently in the sense that android characters can't learn any techniques, though they tend to have more skills usually. They also don't heal the same way. Essentially, they can't be healed by, healing techniques, and they can't be healed by most normal healing items either. The only way they can be healed or revived is, going to an inn, that still works, or using these repair kits. Or outside of battle, just walking around, their health will naturally go back up. So that's kind of the trade-off there with androids. Let's see, there's also this idea where, so for some of the weapons and stuff too, the equipment and things, there are these, most of these weapons are pretty standard. They do have these boomerang class weapons that can go and, actually, they're usually pretty weak, but you use them as, a standard attack. They'll go and they'll hit all the enemies. So they'll just be able to hit every enemy on screen, even though they're weaker, you're spreading the damage. Not the craziest, most unique thing, but it's something. And then you've got, with equipping stuff, you can have, for weapons, you can have a two-handed weapon, you can have two one-handed weapons, you can have a one-handed weapon and a shield, or even two shields if you want to equip yourself that way. So you have a little flexibility there. And, really only certain characters can use certain pieces of equipment, though, as well, so you have to kind of factor that in as well. The real interesting thing comes in with macros. You can create your own macros, which essentially allows you to pick the sequence of actions that you want to do. So, the game will default to one where you can it's just all auto attacks or whatever, your basic attacks. And so you can use that, for example, to just go and grind enemies, just select that. Instead of, going and selecting each character to attack, you just hit that, and it'll make all the characters do those attacks in the order it's selected. And that can be kind of important because, for one thing, you can set up these things doing all these attacks, or maybe you have a bunch of heals, or you have a certain like sequence of moves you do all the time. Maybe you want to set that up and just make it a macro, so you don't have to select everyone to do that specific thing. You can just set them up to do this at different points rather than selecting every single turn to do those things, right? It can save you a lot of time. But also, it can do things in a particular order, because if you use the normal way of just selecting the action for each character, the order that they do it in is going to be determined by their agility. However, if you select it with the macro, you can put it in a certain order so that certain attacks will happen before other ones, or certain actions will happen before other ones. Whether it's attack, defend, use an item, use tech, use skill, whatever, it'll put it in the order you want. And that's also important because there are these hidden combo moves that you can do. Basically they require you to do a certain sequence of things in order to trigger them. So if you want to make sure that you can get that sequence of things to happen, even if your agility is like maybe not super lined up to make those happen, that can force them to happen in the right sequence. So that's kind of important, I think, too. And something you don't really see in a whole lot of other RPGs, especially at the time. But most of that other combat stuff and whatever is fairly standard. However, they also have some stuff with walking around, the exploring part. You go around to different towns, and there's different shops to check out. You can talk to people in the towns, and the townspeople, these NPCs will say things that are usually trying to lead you somewhere, or giving you, like, lore as to, things of the planet and the other people, or whatever, the system and the goings-on. Their dialogue actually changes as you do different events throughout the game as well, so you can come back to places later and they'll mention things that have happened already, and maybe sometimes they'll give you new information and point you in another direction, or they'll just kind of reflect on things that have happened, and it makes you feel like you've actually, kind of affected this world in some way. But you also have the ability to talk to your own party members. There's just a part in the menu you can go to and say, oh, hey, like, talk. And your party members will talk to each other or whatever, and essentially they're just kind of there to give you a refresher on what your objective is, what you're supposed to be doing. You can also go back to the town with the Hunters Guild in it, and actually periodically they'll unlock some more side missions for you to do, optional side quests to give yourself some extra money to go buy things and whatever, and more stuff to do there. So there is also that aspect of it as well. Also, there's a lot of the things with, like, traveling and going around. You have, like, warp spells, the spells to get out of the, or I guess tech. You have techniques to warp and to get out of places, and to, you can do healing and stuff, whatever, in and out of battle. And you get items for this. There are some places where, certain parts in the story where you'll have to maybe get a key item to progress, or certain parts where you might have to actually get, like, a new vehicle, because there's different travel for, like, vehicles for on the planets, or actually going into space and going between planets. That's also a thing you can do. So that's another little aspect of it too, is getting these vehicles to help you progress throughout to the next areas as well. So there's a lot of stuff, even though a lot of this is going to be pretty typical standard RPG fare. Some of it is a little bit different in that sense, and I think a lot of this is really good. I think Phantasy Star 4 does a lot of things to really make it stand out and make it enjoyable. Like, I think that, of course, I already said the setting's cool. I like the setting. I think that's really neat. I think that the macros are a really cool idea. I mean, I personally never did anything with the combo moves, but also that kind of is to its credit. It kind of lets you play the way you want to play. Like, I didn't really do a whole lot with, my techniques. I mostly just healed and then hit people with my regular attacks most of the time. And with a little bit of grinding, I was able to do that. And it wasn't even a ton of grinding either. It's not a super overly long grindy experience either. So, I think you have a lot of options to play, and some ways might be more optimal than others, but, you can still play the way you pretty much want to play and have it kind of work out for you, at least as far as, as long as you're not trying to be like a pacifist or something, I guess. I think that's really great. I loved having the macro just go in and just, when I'm grinding, I can just hit that, and I can just, auto attacks everybody, and then I don't have to worry about it, and then just kind of go from there. It was really nice. And I like the talk feature as well. That function, that was cool. Just to be like, especially if I've been grinding for a while or I wasn't playing it for a few days and I came back, I'm like, oh yeah, what was I doing? And I can talk to my my party members and they'll be like, we're supposed to be doing this thing. I'm like, oh yeah, I am supposed to be doing that, right? And it does like a good job too with the story, I think. There's a lot of mystery that goes on here, like a lot of questions you have that are coming up and you're waiting for those to be answered. But there's also a lot of things that are just kind of simple, like, you have a revolving door of like party members coming in and out. You can have up to 5 party members at a time. And just kind of getting attached to characters over time, bonding with them. A lot of it's, pretty simple stuff, pretty basic, but it's effective. And I feel like the game did a pretty good job of like moving along with it and like making the characters endearing enough where you're like, all right, I do kind of, at this point, I'm like, I do kind of care, So I think they did a good job hitting, getting me hooked where it counted there. The art is great. Like, it's really cool pixel art. I think it's very colorful and vibrant for things. I think a lot of the battle backgrounds are really cool, I think, particularly. And also, like, a lot of the monster designs are cool, the enemies. I kind of wanted to just keep going, too. I'm like, well, what cool kind of, enemy designs am I going to see next? It really kept me moving forward. Just to see more of those as well. And they're also, like, the important, story cutscene things that happen. Have these, like, kind of like comic book style, like, panels with like highly detailed pixel art in those when things are going on, and they're kind of like overlapping each other and stuff as things are happening. It's very cool. It's very stylish. I really liked that as well. Just keep things more engaging. Like, oh, I'm getting rewarded from like, like I got to the next part. This is really cool. Look at this. That stuff was neat. The sound is also very good too. I like I really like this Sega Genesis sound chip anyway, but like, it's just got really cool music in it, and I think that like also there's a lot of just the way the music goes also kind of blends things together as well, right? It's like some of these kind of feel like more like I say, like sword and sorcery, kind of like classic RPG kind of tunes, but then you have it like meshed with the Sega Genesis very electronic twang of the sound chip, and there are parts when things are more robotic and those sound cool too. I think it's very this is a very interesting game. It kind of keeps you moving. It keeps the pace very well, I think, is probably maybe the best way to put it, because you're constantly like learning new things and like getting new like techniques and new skills, and your party members are changing and different story things are happening. You're leveling up and you're getting equipment, and then it's like, oh, here's this new area, oh, here are these new enemies to fight, here's this like, oh, I'm going into space now or something. Like, there's constantly like stuff happening, so you're not just like sitting here and like doing kind of the same thing for too long, other than if you want to go grinding, which I kind of don't mind doing. I did that in some parts and that was fine. It wasn't like overly long where I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. So like, there's that. It's yeah, I think they've done a very good job, and it's very clear that like they really cared about a lot of this stuff. A lot of effort was put into here to make these things kind of work together without it feeling like, the story's not like super preachy or complicated. The kind of seemingly opposite things of like sword and sorcery type stuff with the tech stuff, sci-fi tech stuff. Weirdly, those things work together very naturally, and they don't feel forced. But they also don't feel like they don't belong either. They feel pretty naturally cohesive here. They did a pretty good job with that as well, I think. So a lot of this is done very, very well. That's not to say that it's perfect, though. It's certainly not a flawless game, and there are some issues with it. I think the biggest issue with Phantasy Star 4 is probably the fact that it's very hard to tell what the hell your techniques and skills do. They don't have very long names, especially the techniques. They have very abbreviated names, and so you can kind of guess some of them, and you have to kind of learn that like certain prefixes will mean certain things as well on top of it. Like, I don't know, it's all like res, like, oh, it's probably like, that's like a healing thing, right? Like restore, res. Then like, Geyers, I was like, what the hell is that? Oh, it's like giga res, right? But it's all one word. So you can kind of figure something out like that in that sense. But when I learned a skill that's like Tandle, I have no idea what Tandle means. What am I supposed to... So you just kind of have to trial and error some of these things. And it's kind of annoying too, because like the items that you get, like for just consumable items or whatever, the items that you're holding with you, if you go and check those, you can actually like look at them and get descriptions of them, so you have usually some idea of what they do, along with them having longer names. But with the techniques, it's like trial and error, just test them out and see what they do, and a lot of times they'll do nothing in a battle, and you're like, well, I still don't know what it does. You'll probably just have to look it up. Unless this came with a manual that said all that stuff, you'll have to look it up, and I ended up making a little cheat sheet for this. I also had to look up a map at one point. Not that you super need it. A lot of people do try to give you like, oh, you should go here to this place, or it's like north of here or something, right? And they're trying to tell me there's like a landmark or something to look for. You know, they try to like guide you in the right direction pretty well in the game. But it is kind of crazy that we're talking about the super advanced civilization with, you know, artificial intelligence that's taking care of the planetary systems for them to make sure things are livable. And they have, you know, androids and all this other stuff. But they never invented maps? Why can't I just have a map? You know, you think someone would have created that by now. That would be very, very handy. Random encounters also get pretty annoying because, like, basically, you can save in most places except for, like, in the main dungeons. So if you're in kind of like a more mazy, labyrinth kind of dungeon, you're trying to explore everywhere, it could be a pain in the ass to have random encounters constantly. And there's no techniques or skills or items that really make that any better. Your best bet to do it more quickly is to just run from all of the encounters, I guess, if you don't want to deal with them, but there's no way to, like, reduce them or stop them at all. So that's can be very, very frustrating, and also you can't save in the dungeon, so if you're in, like, a big place or a mazy place or something, like, basically you don't really want to start a dungeon if you don't feel like you have the time to do it. I mean, on the Sega Genesis Mini, I can save state whenever I want, so a lot of times I did actually, well, not a lot of times, but sometimes I did actually just save, you know, did a save state in the dungeon, and I usually left the thing on anyways, just in case I had that save state, but, like, you know, if you're playing the real deal, you can only save outside of there, and you probably, you know, you can exit easily enough, but you'll have to do all your progress over again, you know, when you come back later, so you gotta make sure you have that time commitment. And again, granted, they are pretty generous with, you know, how much they're going to give you, like, for healing or whatever. They're not going to make you do too crazy much in a dungeon where it's going to be like, oh man, I just wasted, like, hours here or something, right? But, it can still be kind of annoying, to do that stuff. Like I mentioned, the combo system, I also want to mention that too, and that I never found a single combo, but I didn't really look for them. They are not necessary. The main issue, I think, is that the game doesn't really tell you about combos, if I remember correctly. I don't think anyone is like, hey, you can discover combos. So, like, unless you just do happen upon them, you know, I don't know how you're going to figure those out, rather than just like, it's, oh, I did by happenstance. Why did that happen? And, like, try to figure it out from there. So that's probably also a bit of a problem. There probably should have been some people who told you something about them that you can, like, figure those out somehow, rather than it being, like, something outside of the game you have to just kind of, like, happen upon, I guess. Also, the traveling stuff can be a little annoying because, like, you have the warps you can do with your techniques, but they only work per planet. So you have to go, like, warp to, like, okay, what was the last place I went to? What town had the spaceship port outside of it, so I can fly to the place I need to go to and then do the teleport while I'm there. You know, like that kind of thing. It didn't add a whole lot to the game. It's a cool idea aesthetically, but gameplay-wise, it doesn't really add a whole lot to it. It's just kind of it makes fast travel slower by being there. Yeah, I don't know. There's, like I said, there's little things around here that just, like, aren't perfect. And they maybe could have been done better. And I'm sure if there were more modern games, you know, they made a more modern Phantasy Star today, they probably would fix a lot of those issues as well. So, like, it may be a bit of it, you know, for the time or whatever, that kind of thing. But I didn't play it in the 90s. I played it now. So I think it's still worth talking about, I suppose. That being said, though, a lot of that is kind of nitpicky. Obviously, it's not like a huge deal. And I don't think any of that takes too much away from, like, just how awesome this game is, because again, it's one where I think they took a lot of care to make it, you know, to make it engaging and fun. And as much as they had, like, some cool lore and some cool story ideas they wanted to do and all this, they weren't willing to, like, wrestle the fun out of it to do it. So you still have a good pace. It's not like particularly difficult or challenging. Like some bosses I actually did still have a challenge with, even with my strategies, and I had to kind of change my priorities and stuff for them too. So it's not like you can just breeze through here like it's nothing, but it's not going to be like an agonizing, grind fest or something. It's a shorter RPG as far as like a lot of RPGs would go. I think it's probably on the shorter side. It's got a great pace to keep it interesting. Things are happening. You're seeing new stuff all the time, and it's cool to like look at and to listen to, and it's engaging to play. With some really neat systems in here as well. That the whole thing kind of just comes together, and I think by the end, I don't think I would say it's one of the best RPGs, greatest RPGs ever made or anything, but I can understand the excitement for this, especially, if you had a Sega Genesis when this came out. This would probably be a pretty big deal. This is really good. And even now, it's still really good. I don't think time has made it really look all that bad. Again, maybe a couple of things would be nice for, modern quality of life changes here and there, but it's certainly very playable the way that it is. And it's also a nice little bonus you have for playing it now as well. If you're playing it these days, I mean, you have the internet to kind of fill in the gaps. If something is like, I am lost, or how do I do this, or what about this thing, you can look that up and figure it out. So if anything, it's only really gotten better in that sense. And it still holds up very well. So I'm really glad I played it. And I guess for questions or whatever at the end here, I'm curious, what did you guys think of Phantasy Star 4? Did you play this before some of the other ones, or did you play the first ones and lead up to this? And just what do you think of it? I'm very curious about that, because this is really, like I said, this is the first Phantasy Star I've beat. I haven't heard a whole lot about Phantasy Star games other than that they're good. And I played a chunk of the first Phantasy Star. I do want to probably replay that at some point as well, but I don't know, let me know that stuff in the comments if you'd like and want to chat about it, and all that fun stuff. It was pretty good. I really liked it, so I think I'll do. Again, the written review is in the comments there. In the comments, it's in the description if you want to check it out. That I'll do it. I think I'll do it for me. So it was cool. I do have Phantasy Star 2. I may play Phantasy Star 1. I don't know which order to do those, but I have Phantasy Star 2 on the Sega Genesis Mini 2 that I could play, and I also have Sega Ages has the thing I could get on the Switch or something to play the first Phantasy Star. So those are options. There's something on the table, something to consider. Let me know what you think. And it was cool. And I still miss Alice.